going on, guys? We are here for another Volnay Live. Really excited for tonight's guest. We've got Jack Ordway of EJO General Contracting. So really excited to talk to him. I'm going to go through kind of his career, how he ended up in owning a general contracting company, and where his business is at today, and where it's going to where he kind of wants to see it go into the future. So Jack and I have been working together now for 4 or 5 years. So excited to let you guys kind of hear his story and ask a ton of questions about hiring a general contractor, things to look out for, tricks of the trade when looking at an investment opportunity, and things that you should check out. So he's got almost 20 years experience now as a builder, so be a great opportunity for you guys to ask some questions. So
what's up?
What's up, bud? How are you?
I gotta find a camera angle that works for us.
It's tough.
Especially when you get a huge head like me.
I left my good lighting out on the island, so now my face is all just, this is all I got. I got no light. I got no good lighting.
You might want to shut the lights off.
Whoa! Well, thanks for joining. I think this is it's going to be awesome. So we got some people joining in. So everyone throughout the interview, feel free to send in some questions. We'll get to all those at the end. But first off, tell us about yourself, Mr. Ordway.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. So my name's Jack Ordway, for anybody that doesn't know me. I've been doing the general contracting in the business now, in the building now for about 20 years. We started out with a small real estate office, and back in the early 2000s, everything was kind of cookie cutter, and we kind of hated the way a lot of the condominiums looked at. We were, kind of just showing for people. So I took it upon myself, started kind of redesigning them. And little by little, every time we had an open house, more and more people would ask who did the design, who was doing the construction, things like that. So it kind of, EJO kind of just, it kind of created itself. It just grew from EJO Realty Group into EJO General Contract. Where's my goggles? I gotta put them on. So that's how it kind of manifested into the building side of things.
Nice. So kind of run us through. So it started out as a brokerage, and then you started getting into construction. When did you actually get your GC license? I
got my GC license in 2007. And I get into real estate full time right after 9/11. So I was a construction manager at Massport at Logan Airport. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened, and I was the low man on the totem pole with management, so I got laid off. In the downtime, I started studying for the real estate sales license. So I got my sales license. I worked with Dana White from the UFC. I worked with his mother, June White, at South Boston Realty for a couple of years, and then I got my broker's license and opened my own shop.
Nice. So let's talk about how the business is set up today. So sure. Obviously, what are you guys working on? How is it structured and all that?
So right now we're working on multifamily developments. A majority of them are yours, so you know that. But we have other clients that we're working for. So we have jobs that are going on throughout the city. We're also down on the South Shore in Milton and Quincy in those areas. So right now the structure is, it really depends on, with the homeowners. Sometimes, if they're dealing with construction loans and things like that, each job is kind of its own unique piece. And there's a lot of logistics to work out depending on financing and, what the homeowners want to do.
Yeah. So, so let's kind of talk about giving some advice for people. So we'll get to some questions later, but what are some things that people should be looking at when they're trying to decide who they should hire as a general contractor, or when they're hiring a subcontractor, things they should, look at, questions they should ask, and all those type of things?
Sure. Well, number one, I think when you're hiring a contractor, you have to do your homework. So you want to make sure that everybody's licensed. You want to make sure everybody's insured. Definitely follow up with some references and check out their references. And it's just, if you have a gut feeling about somebody and you just don't feel like you can trust them, a lot of times you can't. You and I, going back a couple of years from the first minute I met you, I felt you were an honest person. And I try to kind of, give off that same sense. If anything, I think I go above and beyond trying to help people. Sometimes I'm a little too courteous. I don't have that mean streak in me to tell people just to pound sand, if they're not happy with something. So I take a lot of pride in my work. I hope it shows. I hope you're all happy and all my other customers are happy. And, it's a reputation that's taken me 20 years to build, so I don't want to damage it,
Yeah.
But if you're looking for subcontractors, you definitely have to check out their work. Same thing with the subs. You have to check out their references. Everybody is so busy right now. So guys are taking startup checks. They're doing, crappy jobs on construction, and then they're skipping to the next job. And there's no repercussions. If you don't really follow up with these guys, they're really tough to get back. So, just yesterday, I drove all the way down to East Bridgewater just to, look at some work that an HVAC company is going to be doing for us. So I went down to check out their work. I walked through a couple of their projects, and they did a great job. And because of that meeting, you and I are going to be using these guys. So you definitely have to follow up and check out some of their work and follow up with references.
Yeah. So when someone's hiring a GC or if they're hiring a sub, how should they handle the payment structure? I feel like it's something that obviously you hear like, give me half the money up front, or give me, and it's like, I feel like there's so many horror stories of people making that mistake and then the money's gone. So what's the proper way, in your mind, that someone should handle that relationship, whether it's a GC or a sub?
Yeah. So it's a good point, because you're right. It's from both sides of the scale, so sometimes the customers kind of let the budget get out of their hands, and the same thing with the contractor. So I've seen on the larger projects, it's easy to maintain a budget and a timeline if you're using smaller payouts, believe it or not. So if we're doing $1 million job, we might, ask for 6 payments, and you set milestones before you get each one of those payments, and you get them in smaller increments. And so it makes you spread the money out thinner. And by doing that, you have a better grasp on where the money's going. I've seen in some of the larger jobs, if you break it out to 2 payments or 3 payments, it feels like there's an endless well of money until you need it. And then all of a sudden, you're behind the 8 ball, and there's $30,000 left on a job, and you have $70,000 with work remaining. So me personally, I prefer to break it out to 4 or 5 payments, depending on the size of the job, sometimes 6 or 7 payments if it's over $1 million, and break those out to those increments and set milestones for myself. So whether it's foundation goes in, we get a rough framing delivery, we get a check for that. After we get mechanical inspections and all the mechanical started up, we get a check for that. So I try to break it out into small increments like that.
Yeah. When you're doing your budgeting or your contracts, and this is either someone's hiring you or hiring someone else, what's the type of structure for payment? Are you looking to do a cost plus type of thing, or a guaranteed max price, or how has that structure worked? And have you always done it the same way, or have you changed over the years? And what do you recommend people do when they're hiring a GC? Should they try to negotiate that?
Sure. So, I'm an old dog, Rick, right? So it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So I've been using the same kind of structure since day one. So I break everything out to an Excel sheet, and I'll typically put whatever my GC fee is on it. Certain people get preferential pricing, not to sound like you're price gouging other people. But yourself, I'm not heavy on extras. I hate to go back with the customer and negotiate over extras, but it's the nature of the beast. Sometimes you have to do that. So I typically take the job as a whole, and then I'll put my GC fee on it. So it'll be cost plus whatever the GC fee is.
Right.
And then, sometimes customers just, say, listen, we have a clean slate here. We got a budget of $1 million. How would you recommend we spend this? Or we get a budget of $500,000. How would you recommend we spend this? And what are some of the ideas you have? And that's where the design kind of aspect comes into play too.
Yeah. So are you guys, so if people are watching and, we're going to put this on the YouTube, what type of projects are you taking on right now? So if someone wants to reach out and hire you for, is it, if I want to renovate a bathroom, can I call and hire you? If I want to do a development, can I hire you? Yep. So what are the different levels of EJO? And I know also your wife does design stuff too. Yep. So is she available to help on the design side, and how does that work?
She is. So I'll speak to my wife first. She loves design. I mean, whether it's helping homeowners out, half the time she's not paid a fee for it. A lot of times she's volunteering her services, and she's shopping online, and she's shopping in stores and things like that. So she enjoys doing it. It's a passion of hers, and it's something that she's trying to grow her business. So we'll see where that goes. But for me personally, I don't want to seem like I'm bigger than any job, because that's not where I'm at. You know what I mean? So I take everybody's phone call. So if there's a homeowner watching this and they have a small bathroom renovation that they want to do, if it's something that we can't do, then I have 7 or 8 other friends that are dealing with some of the smaller scale stuff, and I'd be happy to make a referral from. And I have homeowners call me all the time, Rick, ask me for advice and things like that. I'll always answer the phone, and I'll always steer them in the right direction, even if we can't do it. But right now, we have jobs that are ranging from a single family complete renovation all the way up to a 27-unit build that we're quoting right now over in Dorchester. So 27-unit, 24-unit, and then, you know, obviously all your units, 9s and 4s and 6s. And so, yeah, anything pretty much.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your past. And
sure.
Let's talk about the fact that you're a gilded actor. And also, everybody, keep sending in questions, you know, in the comments, or use the question option for all the stuff we've been talking about.
Sure. So what do you want to know? How we get into it?
How did you end up becoming a gilded actor?
So so I was in the Marine Corps, and when I first came home from the Marines, I saw an audition for a play for A Few Good Men. And it kind of appealed to me just because it was about the Marine Corps, and I've seen the movie with Jack Nicholson and everything. So I went to the audition. I got the part. It was a stage play, so I had the bug for a little while. And then just from there, I started going on auditions, on different auditions. So you need so many speaking parts in order to get a Screen Actors Guild card, or you need one credited part in a movie. And a good friend of mine, Brian Goodman, who's out in LA right now, he was directing his biopic in Celtic, and I was lucky enough to get a part in that with a speaking part. And I had some lines opposite Ethan Hawke, and that qualified me for the Screen Actors Guild.
Nice. And so, tell the story of Shutter Island.
So I worked on Shutter Island. I pretty much did some stunt driving down there, even though it's not credited. But I was driving a World War II Army Jeep, you know, just kind of flying it around with the actors in back, and they did all the aerial shots with the helicopters above us. And then I played a guard in it, just as a kind of glorified extra, but didn't get any FaceTime on the final cut. But it was nice, you know, seeing DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo, and especially it was really cool working with Martin Scorsese, you know?
Yeah. My little story, my act, I think I told you this story before, but I was in, what was the movie called? It was the one with the gambling one, and they filmed it in Boston.
Oh, yeah, it was
21.
21.
So I was in 21. I was working as a security guard at the Copley Mall, and I was probably the only white kid who was in the security staff. And so they called us in to work a 24-hour shift.
Yep.
And they told me, they're like, all right, you're up. Put on the Louis Vuitton suit. You're working in Louis Vuitton for the film. And they did my makeup and stuff. They
Nice.
put me in Louis Vuitton. And then I was all excited. I came home. I worked an all-night shift. They were all the people were in the Louis Vuitton with me. Yeah. And then the movie came out. Went to see it at the theaters. Cut me right out.
It's frustrating. It's happened to me a few times. You know, Shutter Island. It happened to me. I did the movie The Forger with John Travolta, and you know we filmed some extra scenes in that. And you know, you're lucky. You know, if you get a couple minutes of FaceTime, you're lucky. You know.
Yeah.
Unless you're a big name actor.
So now let's shift into, what's the name of the boy band? Someone commented it.
No comment.
Wait. Positive Attitude.
Yeah, I was young. You know, that was just a local thing. You know, me and some friends, we used to enjoy singing, and everybody back then was in a boy band. So we had one, and then I went to the Marine Corps. I smartened up.
Nice. So let's I guess, you know, kind of talk about how when we met. So I met you, geez, how long has it been?
I think it's coming up on 5 years.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. So almost 6 years.
Yeah.
So we got introduced through Mark Little, right? And he introduced us, and I was actually looking at hiring him as a GC. And so I was going through, I had been doing projects on my own, self-GCing, no permits, hiring subs myself. And now it was time to get into the business. And then you and I met, probably had interviewed like 5 or 6 different GCs, and you know, we kind of hit it off. But I guess, what did you think of me when we met 6 years ago?
Well, you know what? Do you remember what I said to you?
No.
I said, I'm the best decision you'll ever make. It's like he said to Kraft, right? It's, you still there? Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Oh, you're back now. Yeah, it sounded like I lost you.
No, I'm here.
No, I had a good first impression of you. You know, once you get past the glamorous hairdo, I'm like, you know, I could tell you get a good head on your shoulders. And I don't know what it is. Some of the young guys that I can see that have this passion and want to really build and develop. I enjoy helping those guys out. I didn't know if you and I were going to have a long-term relationship, if you were even going to hire me, but I admired the fact that you had so much passion, and I can tell by talking to you that you had a good grasp on the business. And I mean, I couldn't be any more proud of you. I mean, 6 years now, look what you've built, so it's a lot to say for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we really met, and it was like it was like two sides of the business. Like you had the experience of
And the good looks.
construction and
Yep.
all that stuff that I didn't have. I
Yeah.
was really, really raw, but I had the numbers side and was able to, and like, I think it was the perfect match at the right time where I could continue to work on the other stuff.
Yep.
And, you were able to then take on the construction side and,
Yep.
build it to what it is today.
Well, there's a lot of blue collar guys that are probably in a similar situation that I'm in. And, I'm not shy. If I don't know something, it's, I'm not embarrassed to ask a question. And I think I've learned as much from you as I'm hoping that you learn from me,
Yeah.
Definitely from the financial side of things. I mean, it was nice having that knowledge that you have.
Yeah. I think that, I guess that's something that in this business is like surround yourself with people who are like-minded, but bring additional things to the table.
Yeah.
I think that that's been great for our relationship and kind of us working with other people and, kind of the people we surround ourselves with is everyone's trying to help each other out.
Yep.
And, obviously you and I butt heads sometimes and it's, I think, what do you think has been, for other people who are hiring a GC or working in partnerships and stuff,
Yeah.
what do you think is key to the fact that we've worked together now for 6 years and have been able to continue, the partnership on these projects and that things have continued to go well?
Sure. I think the biggest takeaway is just, if there's a mistake made or if you're in the wrong, don't be, too embarrassed to admit it. You know what I mean? Throughout the construction job, sometimes, things go sideways and you have to do your best to keep them on track, but it's not always the case. That sometimes we don't hit the budget numbers and you and I will butt heads over that. Sometimes we can't get something built the way, maybe you want it or I want it, but you have to be willing to compromise and you can't be so stubborn not to realize if you're incorrect about something, then you can't be so stubborn where you can't address it.
Yeah. So let's kind of let's talk about Chris and AMV and how he's joined us. And
Sure.
I personally think that in the past year, we've seen a big change in both of our businesses.
Yeah.
Give you guys so AMV strategy. Chris has joined working from Volnay and been working closely with Jack and really given us that additional step of understanding budgets and digging in and tracking spending in real time. And I mean, you can kind of speak on it. I think
Sure.
I think at first we were kind of like, this is a lot, right? It was kind of like, the weekly meetings and the financials and the timelines, but we quickly realized that it's a huge asset.
It's a great asset, and I think Chris is a great guy. He's very intelligent. I think he brings a ton to the table. So I'm actually happy to work with him. He's one of my favorite people that I work with, to be honest. So I just think it's nice, going back to keeping things on schedule and keeping things on budget. It's so much easier to maintain those things when you're looking at them in real numbers in real time. In the past, like you and I know, we go over budget numbers at the end of a job and everything's sold, and we're trying to figure out what the investors are getting. And sometimes you can't recall where you spent the money, or you can't recall where you exactly went over on the budget. So it's nice having real-time tracking for both the numbers, not only just for the numbers, but also for the schedule. So I'm excited that we do this every Monday, just to keep everything on track. It makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that's, anyone who's hiring a general contractor, we were doing it. I think I was trying to send you weekly emails on Fridays for a while.
Yeah.
But it was just an Excel file, and it was just like I just data dumped. I just sent it to you for all the projects,
Yep.
And we didn't actually go through it. So
Nope.
I think it's key for anyone who's hiring a GC or is like, tell them that you're going to expect a weekly meeting,
Yep.
right? And it's like if they're not willing to meet with you on a weekly basis, then they're not the GC for you,
Yep.
whether it's a home renovation or whatever. So I think that going over the budget and telling them you want to see where all the spending is and you want to see the timeline on a weekly basis, say every Thursday morning, is a great thing, and everyone should do that,
Yep.
even on the smaller stuff.
Well, what I started doing recently too is you and I walk through the jobs all the time, and if it's not you and I, Chris and I, we walk through our jobs probably more than we need to, but with the average homeowner now, before we close up any walls, I just did it tonight just before I jumped on with you. I walk through every square inch. I'm like, this is the lighting layout. This is where your outlets are going to be. This is your pendant lights, your recessed lights. And we go through the entire job before I close up a single wall now, because I'm just tired of moving things, 15 times, So it's a huge help. Just have them commit to it, have them shoot you an email so there's confirmation, and then close up the walls once everything's done. Tonight we did come across a few changes they want to make. So I'll make those changes tomorrow, and we'll be closing up the walls at the end of the week. Hopefully.
Nice. So when someone's getting into a project, where are let's start with a simple 3-family. So if someone's, I know a lot of the people in our team reach out to you to tag along and say, hey, can you come help me?
Yep.
If someone's going to buy an investment property or a condo conversion, what are the things they should look for when they're first entering into a 3-family from having 20 years of looking at them?
Yeah. So the first thing is obviously infrastructure, right? So you want to check out, the foundation. You want to make sure there's no cracks. You want to make sure it's stable. If you're salvaging it, if you're going to demo it, then you probably don't care. But if you plan on, buying it, maintaining it as a rental or even as condos, but check out the foundation, check out the infrastructure, check out the service coming in, check out the water service, sewer lines, things like that. If you're going to maintain the roof, see how old the roof is. If it's, just windows, all that stuff, insulation, it all plays a big part, because a lot of these people that are buying these multifamilies are overpaying right now, in my opinion, for a lot of these neighborhoods, and money's getting tougher to come by. So if you can salvage something, if you don't have to rip out, every single wall in the house, why do it? If you can get away with just moving some partition walls around, why give it a complete gut if you don't have to? I don't think some of these young buyers realize how much things cost to put back. So if you can maintain these things and there's a good infrastructure and you can, maybe tweak the electrical, tweak the plumbing, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. But those are obviously the first things you look at.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things we've been dealing with on a couple of our projects, like where that line is to go full gut and do all new, or like how long will it last if you continue to keep it? Yeah. Right. And it's that tough balance. I mean, in the end, it's the best thing is to do all new.
Yeah.
It's obviously you're going to have it and it will have no problems for 30 years, but is, that extra $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 to do all new, it's not really going to get you more rent.
Yeah.
It's going to make your expenses lower, and it improves the value of the building, but how much? Because like a lot of buyers don't give it the proper value when they're repurchasing it.
No, it's true.
I'm looking at some of the stuff we've done. It's like this building now is awesome. It's all new, but would it really appraise and sell for what it's really worth, the amount of time and money that went into it? Whereas if you just were to do something cosmetic and keep some of the stuff, you're getting more equity in that way. So it's a tough balance.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I'll use I have a 3-family in Southie, for example. I can go in there tomorrow. It hasn't been renovated in over 20 years. 20 years ago, I did a surface renovation. I'm still getting top rents. You know what I mean? Anytime somebody moves out, I go in, I clean it. I might paint the walls and patch the walls a little bit, fix any broken cabinets. And the place looks as good now as it did 20 years ago, to be honest. If I wanted to go in there and spend $300,000, I could, but what am I going to get in rent? Another $200 a month out of each unit? It's just not worth it.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's just not worth it, especially with all that's going on today.
Yeah, we've gotten some calls and people ask me that. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to have to get in and I'm going to need to do this right away and this right away. I'm like, well, why? Like, does the heating systems work?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but they're 20 years old. I'm like, I have heating systems in some of my buildings that are 40 years old.
Yeah. Service them and maintain them, and they'll last.
They still work.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know I've talked to some, like, Bruno Brothers and stuff, and they're like, do not show up and rip out old heating systems.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it. You get them up and running. If they shit the bed, you change them.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
You don't change them right away.
Well, that's for a buy and hold, right? So if you're buying condos, obviously it's different.
Condos you have to. So one thing is, like, on these projects, people always ask me this, and you and I dealt with this a lot early on. We don't deal with it as much anymore. Is like these old buildings where they're like seeping towards the middle.
Yep.
Right. I got a call about this today, and it's like I feel like people get immediately scared of that. They're like, oh shit! It's like the middle, the middle lally columns are old and brick and like giving way.
Yeah.
And the building's starting to seep towards the middle. And before I met you and started doing these, I was like, oh God, we got to run away. And then we started doing it, and you're like, it's actually a pretty simple fix. Yeah. As long, it can be, but kind of run through that.
Yeah, it can be. It depends on what's causing it, right? So you look at some of those three families on Chelsea Street in East Boston, the ones that are leaning sideways.
Yeah.
That's different. If you have something that's pulling toward the center of the house, what happened is at the turn of the century, a lot of times they used to tie the floor joists into the old chimneys. So you'd see like some of the ledger boards wrapped around a chimney with floor joists tied into it. So over the years, those would start to fail, and then as the chimneys and stuff kind of shift, the floors would pull down. Or like you said, the old brick lally columns. Over time, the brick just corrodes. They haven't been maintained. So it's not a tough fix. You know, if you put a proper footing in, you might have to jack it up a little bit, and then put some permanent lally columns in there. A lot of times, especially if the chimneys are coming out, if you're ripping the chimneys out, it's even easier to fix. But a lot of times you can salvage those things just by, you know, putting a proper footing in, jacking the house up slowly, make sure you hire a professional to do it, and you can work a lot of those little kinks out.
What would the cost be if someone needed to say do like what's per lally column in a basement?
Well, it depends on what we're doing. If somebody just called us up just to put lally columns in, you know, it's you know, just with insurances and stuff, you have to hit a minimum threshold. So the lally columns are inexpensive. They're probably $100 each right now. To put a laborer down there to jackhammer a floor and, you know, pour some bags of concrete down into a footing, it's pretty inexpensive. It's just time. You know what I mean? So I mean, you can put 2 lally columns in, you know, $1,000. You know,
yeah, a couple $1,000.
You don't have to break the bank.
Yeah. So I think that's something. It's a couple $1,000. It's not something that's going to cost you $10,000. If you need just simple, dig a footing, new lally column, take out the brick, put it in, jack it up. Just that, couple $1,000. Not something that you need to run away from. The building's going this way. Whether it's cracks in the foundation or seeping, different story.
Yeah, you know, and especially, you know, it depends on some of these neighborhoods are built on, you know, landfills and stuff. So you really do have to pay attention to to the home inspections and things like that, and have them focus on at least the foundation.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the future for EJO. So obviously you got where you've been growing and how things are going. You got some bigger projects going. You know, where do you want to see EJO in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
You know, what's funny is I'm kind of happy where I am right now. You know what I mean? I like the fact that we've experienced a lot of growth, especially over the last 5 years. But we're still small enough to where, you know, I know everybody personally. I get a great relationship with every one of the homeowners. I never want to get to the point where I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations, because I really do enjoy that interaction with the people. You know, going out and, you know, just visiting different homeowners. A lot of times, you know, there's a lot of different characters you meet, but I think, you know, if we can just maintain steady growth. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this COVID period because we have a lot of jobs that are standing still right now. Nobody knows when this is going to come to an end, but I think just steady growth. As long as, you know, we have steady growth and we're seeing things progressing every year, I'm happy with that. I'm not looking to, you know, become a Donald Trump overnight.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I've given you a hard time over is the idea of hiring a number 2.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got Jimmy. Shout out Jimmy. So he's kind of, you know, but not someone who's skilled carpenter or not a skilled person.
No, just a project manager. Yeah.
A type of number 2 person who oversees, you know, project manager or like you know, second in command from that standpoint. What's the hesitancy against that, and is there any reason why, or just, you know, what are you thinking?
No, it's just trust. You know what I mean? I need to bring somebody on board, kind of take him around, teach him, you know, what I know, and really just be able to trust that he's doing what I need to be done. And the way I'm looking at it right now, Rick, I'm at every job every single day. So right now, you know, I know that you think I should get somebody else, and you know, I'm getting older. I'm not as young as I used to be. You know what I mean? I can definitely see myself kind of siding with picking up somebody and you know, lifting the weight off my shoulders a little bit. But right now, I really enjoy it, and I just haven't really found the right person that I can. Not that I don't trust everybody, but just somebody I can put all my trust into. You know?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who watches this, like I personally, I know you really well. I mean, I think the right guy, if there's someone watching or someone sees this or someone has someone like right out of school, construction management background, maybe worked at Suffolk or something like that, where worked at a large firm, but wants more of an entrepreneurial upside of working at a smaller GC firm, you know, but you know, wants to learn, right?
Yeah.
You know, somebody.
Yeah, so they got to be able to learn, and I have to be able to be willing to learn, and then I have to be willing to kind of pass the reins over to them. But that will all happen when I start getting more into the development with you. So, and then I can loosen up on EJO a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we got a question right here, guys. Keep sending in any questions you have. So here's one. We'll post a couple of these. How do you juggle being a movie star and a GC?
That was from Benny Beantown, wasn't it?
Chris.
Was it from Chris?
Yeah.
I'm no movie star, trust me. Work puts food on my table, so that's the priority. You know, I get emails every day for auditions. I don't go to half of them anymore. You know, I'm getting old. I'm fat. I'm losing my hair. I got to concentrate on construction. I'm not going to be a movie star.
How to find a GC like you and partner up with. So I think that's a really good question because there's a lot of options when it comes to, you know, offering if you're someone who has a 3-family that's doing a gut renovation, condo conversion, and they could approach a GC as a partnership. They could say, hey, these are the numbers. And I mean, I know my side of it. Like, I think if you're going to approach someone to invest or partner, you need to be extremely professional about your approach. Anyone who comes to me with a project and just winging it, and they're like, yeah, it's going to give me a $300K return. It's like, well, why? And so from my side, it's if you're going to approach a GC to be a partner, you need to treat it that way. You need to give them the full financials. Here's what your quote is, and this is what we're going to profit. But from your side, what do you think about that? Is that something that
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head where you have to be transparent. You know, that's probably the most important thing. You need to know what you're going into. You need to, I think there's too much information withheld from potential partners, right? So I think the more transparent you are and the more honest you are, the easier the project's going to go. And the other thing that kills these projects is indecisiveness. So you got to, before you even break ground, with the shovel, both these need to be on the same page, because if you're arguing at the beginning of the job, you're going to be arguing about every kind of groundbreaking decision throughout the job. So I think you need, you can't be indecisive, and you need to be 100% transparent, but you also have to have some chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think we come across a lot of guys that know the numbers. We come across a lot of guys that are smarter than me when it comes to construction. But I think you need to have chemistry to kind of work with somebody every single day for so many years,
Yeah, I think one thing too is that, you need to understand each other's strengths. And then you need to understand who makes the decisions on each item. And so like, I know that, like, you don't want to be who's in charge. That's like the main thing. Like, who's going to make the decisions when it comes to the final call? Each can have inputs, but it really needs to fall on one person, even if it's a partnership. Like, someone's got to make the decisions. And also the idea that, what are each person's role? Like, with our projects, I don't want to babysit or be involved in the day-to-day decisions on the site. Like, that's your job. Like, that's what your side of our partnership is. Like, I need to be dealing with the other stuff, the pipeline. And then, so I think you hear so many horror stories of partnerships where it's like everyone's trying to babysit each other's decisions. Yeah. And it's like, that never works.
No, and I think what helps you and I out is the two of us have similar taste. So now I know, everything you do. I know pretty much all your styles, anything that you're going to like or dislike. The second I see it, I'm like, Rick's going to hate it, so I won't do it. If I think there's something that you're potentially going to like, I'll take a picture of it. We'll do it. We'll do a mock-up. We'll do something like that and send it to you to get your blessing, which you've seen a million times. Or even my little sketches. I'll send you a sketch and say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And typically it's a thumbs up. It's not too often we don't agree.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what else we got here. Paul asks, zoning attorneys, yes or no?
Absolutely. You can answer that better than I can, but I think if you're proposing to build something, you want a zoning attorney that's very familiar with the town that you're building in.
So we've used zoning. Every single project up until this past year, we've used zoning attorneys. The past year, we've been doing our own zoning. We're still using zoning attorneys, but we are doing some of our own. But that's also because it's 5 years of experience. And understanding the process and how that works, and having a team around me that gives me the confidence that we can zone these and permit these ourselves. But if you're getting started, the fee for a zoning attorney is 1,000% worth it, because it's going to save you money. It's going to save you possibly time, but hire a zoning attorney.
I agree 100%. And you're beyond your years of knowledge when it comes to this stuff, so you get a knack for it. So I think the average person, even with 2 or 3 years experience, you're going to have a hard time getting through zoning.
Yeah.
I wish my head would fit in this screen.
Uh, I don't have a button to fix that.
No.
So how do we structure the split with him being a GC and as part of the projects? So, you know, Jack and I it kind of has shifted over the years, right? It started out we met and we just did cost plus GC fees. And then now we've moved towards Jack's actually a partner in these projects and has an equity stake in the projects. And now we have some coming up where we're 50-50 on, and where we're going to be doing these projects together. We've got 2 projects, a 9-unit and a 7-unit, where we're 50-50. We're going to just do them together, and maybe that 3-unit.
Yeah.
The fucking 3-unit.
What happened with that one?
It's right here. This is it.
Did the divorce go through?
It's ready to go to ISD if I ever get this PNS accepted.
Really?
I'm holding these hostage.
Well, if Rob's listening, we have to give him a kick in the butt.
So those ones we're setting up as, you know, partnerships. Hopefully that 3-unit goes through. That's in Eastie as well. Couple more here. What do we got? So this one, can you talk about 360 Meridian? The problems you faced rebuilding a burnt down building. So I'll give you guys a kind of, for people who are watching, 360 Meridian burned down. I decided that I wanted to buy it. So I tried to buy it like the day it burned down. I found out who the owner was and I contacted him. I was like, hey, just let me buy it. And I think I offered like 1.2 million. And there's 9 units already that burned down. And then like a year later, they came back to me and we talked again, and like they had kind of got some plans together, and then it was up to like, they were like, oh, the price went up. It was like, you know, they're getting towards having a permit. And finally, after I tried, it took me about 2 years, I finally bought the building of going after these people, and I paid 165 or something. So for 9 units for 1.65 million, and then we started.
And it's been a nightmare since day one. So
now we know why they sold it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a complicated build. Salem Heights are great. There's a ton of upside to it if we can just get the project completed. So it seems that every time we start making some headway, something happens. So we just finally started getting a lot of the construction done, and then we get shut down with the city here. So it's just that again goes back to really investigating the infrastructure. I mean, we went back and looked at that. Just a lot of the floor joists were rotted out. Things that we thought we were going to be able to save, we couldn't save. It was just open to the elements so long. There was so much, you know, everything was just dry rotted and waterlogged. I mean, the building should have probably been torn down, and we'd be doing finishes right now had we just torn it down. But mechanically, you know, putting the storage tanks and the storm tanks inside the building in the basement, that was a logistical nightmare trying to get it approved. It was just a nightmare, man. But hopefully we're over the hump. We just have to get this construction ban lifted.
Yeah, I think that one thing on these couple projects we've learned is sometimes just smashing the building is just the right decision.
Yeah.
We try to, the nice part about 360 is it had an existing foundation. Like that is on a typical project on like that, you're going to spend $300,000 on the foundation and the site work. And we're going to spend like 100.
Yeah.
Right. So like there's a $200,000 savings by using what's existing there.
Yep.
And if you were to take it down, I don't really know if they'd let you build back on those old foundations. You probably have to do everything new.
Yeah, everything would have been new, and then we would have been in setback issues with the new laws, everything. So like you said, all in, we're going to be $45,000 with the slab and foundation walls.
Right.
Salvaging what we had there, which is great for a building that size.
Right. So it's time consuming, but if you look at it from a perspective of saving $200,000,
Yep.
$200,000 extra time, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Chris, remember he said that.
We'll talk about that next week. Let's see here. Hi, Jack. Have you done any Boston ADU units?
ADU, just, I'm not even sure what that is. Any idea what they're referring to? I don't know what an ADU unit is.
Is that like a handicap accessible handicap? 9 units for 1.65 million, and then we started. No, let's see.
We've done some of the handicap accessible units. Even just in some of your. Well, I know what I like personally is when I'm dealing with the sub, I need to know that I can talk to them. If there's an issue that comes up, we need to be able to, kind of, between the two of us, figure something out, some kind of a solution. I don't like the confrontational guys, and I don't like the guys that are heavy on the extras for, some minor changes, So yeah. I try to just get to know them, before we really start committing to them full time.
Yeah, I think one thing too is just, they need to. We expect transparency in their budget, in their quotes, and understanding that they should be providing the quote that's the best for the project. Yep. And that we don't want to hear them say something like, oh, well, the plans didn't have that. It's like they need to ask those questions ahead of time and make sure that the quote matches up what the expectation is, and ask questions ahead of time.
Yeah. So we have Beantown Electric doing one of our jobs in East Boston right now. And every job that Ricky and I do, we have recessed lights everywhere. Jay from Beantown noticed that some of the living rooms didn't have recessed lights in the plans, and the first thing he did was call me up to see if that was, if that was accurate or not. That's the type of attention to detail we want, but I also don't want a heavy extra as a result of it, because I know that every job they do for us, we use recessed lights. So that should have been in their quote to begin with, even though it wasn't depicted on the plan,
Yeah, and that's the one thing to be careful, guys, is on your plans. Like, we design build everything. Like obviously we got the structurals and all that stuff, the structural decisions, the foundation. From that point on, it's pretty much design build based on what the sub recommends and what Jack decides to do. Mm-hmm. So it's, when you need to have that conversation with the sub that, hey, we're willing to work with you here on these size projects. Talk to us how we can save money, what decisions should be made, to make sure the project goes smoothly. Because sometimes if you try to handicap them into saying you have to follow the plans exactly, it actually can be more expensive and slower.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's see here. Do you prefer planning on paper or on the computer?
We've
seen your sketches, Jack.
Yeah. So I do both. I mean, sometimes we'll sketch something on the job, on the fly. Obviously, if you have a good set of plans on a computer, I prefer to do my estimates and my takeoffs on the computer, but I don't mind, using paper plans.
Let's see here. Buy now or hold off?
I think right now you buy now. Yeah, so Warren Buffett says when everybody else is running, you run too. So I definitely I think you're going to start seeing some deals out there. It might be a great time to buy if you have some cash.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to buy. I think one thing you need to be careful of is what's the status of the tenants. Estoppels is going to be key. Like, have these people been paying their rent? What's the status of that? If you're going to purchase a building, and especially in the short term, have a closing date. Is a little trick. Try to close on like the 5th of the month, and demand that all rent is paid and that they have clean estoppels by that date. Mm-hmm. So what that's saying is that gives you're buying the building, the tenants will have paid their full amount of rent, and you'll get that rent at the closing table. So if you say you're setting up a closing for coming up, you're going to close in July, say, I'll close on July 5th, but I want estoppel saying that full rent has been paid for July, and I'm not closing until we have all the rent for July.
Yeah.
So what that does is it makes the landlord either have to like pony it up, right? Or you make sure the tenants are paying their active rent. Because the last thing you want for a newbie or someone buying a building is to buy a building. I actually had someone I managed. This is the worst situation. Corporate lease, bought the building, first month, corporation said, we're not paying for the 5 units. And they said, do what you want. We're going out of business. We're not paying for our 5 units we rented from you.
Yeah.
So that's like worst case scenario. So make sure that the tenants are paying and that, that rent's going to come in.
Yeah, I have a building that I'm buying in June, and I can already tell you it's going to be an issue with the tenants.
Why doesn't Jack have any posts on his account?
I'm not really a big social media guy. Any of the social media stuff you do see from me is actually from my wife. It's not even from me.
Do you know how to use Instagram?
I do. I just recently started using it about 2 months ago.
A couple more here.
Sure.
Jimmy Didi says, who's your most valuable employee?
Oh, I have to go with my boy Dietz. Yeah, so Jimmy's been with me almost 10 years now, and he's my right-hand man on the job, so I'm grateful to have him.
Let's see. Any more questions, people? All right, that looks like about it. All right, here's one more. We'll finish up with this. We got a couple more questions, but this is from another GC. So a GC asking, being a GC, what's the best way to price a renovation job?
Sure, it depends on what you're doing. Believe it or not, I get this question a lot. Guys will shoot me emails and everything. If it's a complete gut, I'll use a square footage price. If it's, if you're doing something like sometimes that Rick will do, and he'll just want to renovate a kitchen and a bathroom, we'll do kind of a per unit price. But I typically try to use a square foot price.
What are you thinking for per foot now for a gut reno?
For a gut rental, I mean, if you're not doing foundation work and things like that, you're probably at $225 a square foot. If we're supplying tiles, appliances, electrical, plumbing, sprinkler system, things like that, we're coming in somewhere around $225 a square foot.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it's crazy to watch the numbers climb. Hopefully, this will cause talking to other for my 600. We've been talking to like Callahan Construction, and they were around through the last recession, and they said, due to less jobs and also less jobs and materials will go down because there'll be less construction. Yeah. You'll see construction costs drop somewhere between 10 and 20%.
Yeah.
Because subs will charge less because there'll be less work, and materials will go down. So those are two ways we can see lower prices.
Let's hope it happens. I know we're seeing some of the subs trying to price gouge on some of the jobs for that reason,
Yeah.
So much they're trying to make up for it.
Mark from Choose Boston asks, what about for new construction for ground up? For ground up,
yeah. For the ground up new construction, I think the last one that we just priced was somewhere around $250 a square foot.
Yeah, so I mean, 250 is the number. I mean, I think if you're running a project and you're not putting 250, 260 in,
yeah.
I mean, if it comes in under, it's awesome. But if you're not running it at 250, it's not the real world anymore.
I mean, I'm doing 5 units in Dorchester right now on Ashmont Street, and just the site work is $135,000, and it's not a big site. Just the site utilities and excavation for the foundation is $135,000. Foundation's like $70,000. There's a lot. Just right there, you're over $200,000. You know.
Yeah.
I have friends that are using 300 square foot right now. Some of the contractors I know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it comes down to the areas too. If you start getting into complicated sites and like all that stuff, like, you know, that's where the GCs like you end up saying 300 a foot, because it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So if you're in a complicated site in a narrow area, busy street, I mean, more money.
Well, my friends that are GCs in Southie are getting 300 a square foot, and they're sweating like those numbers. And it's insane. You just really need to account for everything too, because I think that's something else too, is when contractors run on budgets. And I'm even guilty of this myself. I mean, we have to account for every doorknob. You have to account for every hinge. Even just the minor things that slip your mind, you know, putting a porta john in front of the job. If it's going to be there for 10 months, I mean, that's a couple of $1,000. You need to account for all those things that normally you'd consider a minor expense, but they add up over the course of the job, and it can just blow the whole budget out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing I've been saying on a couple podcasts is, like, as these projects get bigger and you start getting into ground up construction, it's like those numbers really add up. And it's like a 10% overage on a $3 million budget, $300,000. That's, you know, like that. And it's like, you know, you need to, as the projects get bigger, you need to pay even closer attention to that.
And I'll tell you something, Rick, something worth mentioning, just anybody that might be out there. If you're developing in the flood zone, these guys need to realize how much, you know, dips and helical piles and all those things can add to a job. Just, you know, we found out the hard way at 331 Chelsea Street, but I mean, that stuff is really expensive. So if you're in a flood zone, you definitely want to, you know, start talking to some engineers.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a ground up construction project, getting the GEO report and figuring out what's going on with the soil is vital. You know, you should never buy a set of plans without a GEO report. I don't care if you're buying it with a zoning approval. You need to get a GEO report on your own dime or the developer's dime and get it to the hands of a structural engineer and review that before you close. And it should be a contingency if you're ever buying a project.
Yep.
You know, I had one. I just sold a project in Chelsea. The buyer said, "I'm not buying this without a GEO report." I said, great decision. Go for it. And I said, you know, and I was like, you know, I'll let you go do it on the site. And my preference is if you walk, I would like to have the report. There's no point of us both paying for it. So you can go drill on the site, get your GEO report, and if you walk, I get it. And they were fine with that. No reason for us to both lose.
No, I agree.
And so I thought that was a good compromise. I gave them time to get it done, tied it up for a few weeks, and, you know, it worked out well. But, all right, well, this has been awesome. Guys, I see you got a bunch more questions. You can send them over to me. You can send them over to direct or to Jack at EJO General Contracting. But, Jack, thanks for joining. It's been awesome.
No, it's my pleasure for having me. And anybody, if you want to give a shout out to my email address, any of these young guys out there that might need some advice, or even if they just have a question about something, you know, feel free to shoot me an email.
Yeah, what's your email?
It's jackordway@yahoo.com, or you can just email me at jack@volnaycapital.com.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks for everybody for checking in. We got some questions here. Feel free to send them over to us, but I'll see you tomorrow.
I like 9-foot ceilings. Bye.